Wow, I actually have our CEO, Mr. Jim Young. Give it up, everybody. All right, let's do this. Wow, thank you for coming.
Are you kidding me?
This is great. I've never had a chance to do this with you.
Oh,
So,
that's my fault, not yours.
well, you're a busy guy. Let me ask you, we keep hearing some of the same refrains. Big data.
Right.
That has been the thing. The analysis of big data. The mobile aspect of it. From your vantage point, what are some of the choruses and the headlines that you're seeing at this year's conference?
All right, so I'll try to start at 100,000 feet, and we'll come down. So there's obviously a lot of technology here, a lot of automated solutions, a lot of innovation. But that aside, it is really not about the technology anymore. Okay, I mean, the people who are in this room have the skills, the systems, the solutions to automate the planet Earth if we wanted to.
Right.
Okay? And that wasn't necessarily the case even 3-4 years ago. It is absolutely unequivocally all about the people at this point. It's organizational issues. Does executive leadership understand just how much this industry is about to be transformed?
Right.
Middle management's ability to break down barriers and start jumping departments and talking to each other. And then the people at the execution level to say, I may need some new skills. Right? I may need to become a building data analyst, which that job description doesn't even exist right now. But P.S., there's lots of zeros after that job description, and there are incredible new opportunities. So the biggest message or biggest issue from our vantage point is it is no longer about the technology. It is 1,000% about people and organizational issues.
So, I mean, do we need to start having at Realcomm seminars and groups about the creation of new job titles, and also about the skills that are obviously going to be necessary? Because if we're talking about it's about data analytics, and we're seeing that there's these huge chasms, these siloing of data across the compartments of a company, are we going to have to really figure out trainings where people break those down and start sharing?
Well, it's funny because the data analytics side is both on the Realcomm side, which is the automated business solutions, and on the IBCon side, which is the smart building, and it's impacting both, right? So the last session that I moderated, we were talking about organizational change, and I told the story of an engineer that I met when I was up at Microsoft's corporate headquarters, looking at one of the most insanely innovative solutions on smart cities, if you will, Microsoft campus. And it's a young engineer, and I said, so where'd you go to school? And he said, I said, what degree did you get? And I said, so did you learn this in college? And he said, you gotta be kidding me. Because they're teaching us stuff from 20 years ago. He said, I'm learning the future on the fly right here, right? And so that, for the early adopters and the innovators, that's okay, and smart people like Daryl Smith get that figured out. But as this thing scales, we are gonna have to have some type of an institutionalized educational environment. Now, a university in Toronto has actually just started a curriculum on the smart building side. We're hearing things like real estate data analysts, and we never had those job descriptions before, right? So the answer is yes. Is Realcomm and IBCon going to be the place? I mean, we look at that every year. We've played a pretty good role in the last 10, 15 years to serve up these ideas, and now that the mainstream's starting to catch on, we got to get people smarter on these topics at a detail level.
Here's a question that I've asked a lot of the guests here today. From where you are sitting, where do you see an opening in the commercial real estate or the real estate technology market for a technology where there's a lack, something that is so missing that you scratch your head saying, how come no one's invented that yet?
Yeah, that's it. It still amazes me that it's 2013 and tenants and buildings are writing checks once a month to pay their rent.
Right.
I mean, it is 2013 and I pull out my little check, it's probably coming off a printer, I put it in an envelope, I send it to the mail room, or I walk it through in the bank and deposit it. I mean, it's like 7, 8 years ago we did a advisory about electronic fund transfer. And it was really one of the best responses we ever got. I get all these comments coming from Australia and all over the world saying, I thought you guys were one of this. I mean, we've been doing this for years. So that was 5 years and they've been doing it. So other places around the world I mean, a basic little concept, a business process like paying rent every month. It's a very easy transaction. The amounts are usually the same. I mean, the tenant's pretty stable. I mean, there's not a lot of variation, but yet we're so ingrained in old habits that, so the technology's there, we're just not adopting it.
What are some of the other habits that organizations and businesses seem to be clinging to that they need to shed?
It's not necessarily the specific habits per se as it is a mindset. People, you know, successful careers, 15, 20, 25 years, they get very set in their ways. And you get to a point in your career where you say, all right, do I really want any new challenges? Right? And a lot of times the answer is no. Right? So somebody said it to me earlier. They said, and our conference is just espouses it. But they said, you know, as business people, specifically in the real estate industry as a whole, we need to all become more curious. Which means every day I wake up saying, okay, I've been doing this thing the same way for 100 years, but what would life be like if I renewed that sense of curiosity and said, I can make this better?
Yeah.
So I honestly believe we have just about not every, but a lot of, I mean, we got mobile, we got Google Glasses, we got, you know, tablets, we got databases, we got analytics. There's a bunch of technology, and it works, and it's getting very cost effective. But it's really the willingness of people who've been in the business a long time to say, it's time for a challenge. You know, and our crowd, like I said, the people who come here, they're looking for the challenge. It's the rest of the industry that doesn't come that has me the most concerned.
Yeah. Where do you see, if in fact we are entering a new age where collaboration is going to have to be embraced, the technology is going to grow no matter what we do, where could we see the business going?
Well, okay, so you hit on a keyword, collaboration. So, you know, when conferences like ours are over, we look at who came and how do we do on attendance and so on and so on. And a distinct trend that I saw this year was that the people who kind of dip the toe in once a year and come to the conference, maybe they come every other year and, you know, finding reasons not to come, graduations, which I understand.
Sure.
But you know, they're kind of like playing at the edges. And there's a whole new group that this year brought 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people, and they've attacked this conference like a military exercise. And I just wonder, because the collaboration, I come to a conference like this and I get excited, and I go home and I try to convince it. Unless you're here, you don't know what it's like.
Right.
As good as what we're doing here is good. It's not like being here, right?
Sure.
So you go back and you go to the head of you know, facilities or the head of property management and say, you should have been there. And you try to explain it, and yeah, okay. But if those people are here, it's a whole different world. One dear friend of mine, John Gilbert, you know, said he's had some people in his company that he wanted to bring in, you know, for 5 years, and they finally came this year. And it's like, how come I haven't been coming for 5 years?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to be real curious is in 3, 4, 5 years, if those companies are really embracing it and are collaborating together here, going back and executing these ideas, how do those companies look compared to the companies who are just kind of playing at the edges? Can you see it in their net operating income? Can you see it in their company valuations? Will Wall Street start to pay attention that, oh my gosh, why are these companies performing so much better? And it's because they're innovative, they're pushing forward. So collaboration is the key. You know?
To me, it seems like a lot of the people who were on the edge, unwilling to dip their toe in, the difference is they now have a $2,000, $500 computer device in their pocket that's letting them go to that booth, see what they do, and then, you know, it's not just numbers anymore. It's not abstract. It's, I can look at a graphic representation on my phone of everything in our portfolio. That technology obviously matters. Is there any other technology that you're seeing out there on the edge of the spectrum that could have anywhere near as impactful an effect?
No, I mean, if you look at the, you know, the mobility, all the things you mentioned, or the mobility, the cloud. I mean, to be frank, we've been talking about those things for a long time.
I was here in 2003, and I think
99, Realcomm 99, we had an iPad, and we were showing property management applications, brokerage applications in the cloud, which back then it was called ASP, and then we went application service provider, then we went, what was the next one? What we called the cloud something else, and now it's the cloud, you know, and it's like, okay, so we get it, right?
Yeah.
And the mobile devices have gotten smaller and sexier, but we've had mobile devices. So I think people are fine. Now the iPad really did bring a lot of awareness because executives started going and buying them and watching their kids do things, and then they'd run into IT departments and say, hey, well, how come we're not using this at work?
Right.
So that was actually a big kick, a good positive kick kind of in the behind. But Jury's still out with me, but I thought Google Glass was interesting. Dave Lorenzini
Yeah.
was the same guy that in 2000 showed, well, it wasn't called Google Earth, it was Keyhole.
Right.
And so it was unknown, and Dave got on the stage, or John Hankey, I forgot who it was, and we showed Google a keyhole, and everybody went ooh ah, and then a few years later, we helped them navigate the real estate industry, and it kept them going, and then all of a sudden, Sergey Brin sees him on CNN and buys him, and now we got Google Earth.
Right.
So my question is, 5 years from now, are we all going to be walking around with these glasses, doing site tours and facility inspections? There's a lot of practical applications for it, but are we all going to be walking around with these glasses? I'm not sure, but you don't know.
Absolutely.
So we throw it out there and let the industry think, see what they want to do with it.
Wrapping up, because we're almost, it's time to close out the entire conference, and good job, by the way, it was a great one. And I know that, thanks, my pleasure. I have 2 more questions for you. What's a cautionary tale? What is a cautionary
Ignore
word?
this.
Ignore what?
Ignore all this.
What do you mean?
You said caution. If there's somebody who's saying a cautionary piece of advice I would give is ignore this. You ignore this, you're not going to be competitive. It's too big. It's not hype. It's not theory. It's not speculation. I mean, we have so many case studies, so many people showing legitimate, and people are saying, oh, my business is running fine. It's sort of like you had a little Kresge or a Five and Dime type store, and you go to this conference and everybody's talking about, what toaster should we order for the holiday season? And in the corner there's this guy named Sam Walton, and he's talking about supply chain, redistribution. He's going to take retailing to a whole new level. Nobody knows who he is. He's kind of an annoyance, but we got to figure out the toasters, right? Yeah. And lo and behold, Walmart redefines retailing as we know it. Commercial real estate as we know it is being redefined right here, and you want to ignore it, that's fine, but every major player, literally, they came from around the world this year. This is not going away. It's not going away.
If we do it right, if we do commercial real estate right, if we embrace the technology, if we embrace the best practices, the collaboration and the sharing of information, what's possible? Why do we do what we do?
That's a great question. We will have better buildings that people want to work in. The cell phones work, which 2013, and there are still a number of very high-profile buildings in this country where you will see executives leaning against the windows with their cell phones praying for 2 bars. They will be safe and secure, and it will be comfortable, and the air conditioning is not too cold. And how many times have we gone into high-profile meetings and you can't find the guy to take it, the temperature down? We all say we care about energy and sustainability, but yet we continue to leave the lights on and let air conditioning units fight heating units and waste energy. And we still, we'll send engineers out 1 truck roll at a time, when if we had analytics, we could be much more efficient. So what's at stake is financial optimization of a real estate portfolio, happier tenants, which could mean higher revenues. Inside that financial optimization comes expense reduction. At the end of the day, you have a building owner that's making more money, a tenant that's happier, and an earth that's not being destroyed. So there's a lot at stake. Yeah, and on one final note, I mean, we've had, U.S. has had a pretty good run for the last 100 years. And if you look at Western cultures and office buildings, malls, houses with a picket fence, a car, a washer, and a dryer, we kind of have, globally, we kind of set the standards. And that lifestyle takes 0.067 barrels of oil, 150 gallons of water a day. I forgot was it 15 cubic feet of natural gas, and I forgot the electrical usage. But if you take that lifestyle, which is a office to work in, and a mall to shop in, and a house and cars, if you take that lifestyle and all the statistics and resources it takes to support that lifestyle, and you apply it against 6.7 billion other people on the planet, of which, by the way, in the last 3 billion have joined us in just the last 100 years. Okay, so if you take all this lifestyle and we don't get smarter about it, I'm not sure we'll have enough planet Earths to sustain a westernized lifestyle across the planet without some real innovation.
Yeah.
And We're not going to add any more Earths, right, that we know of, although they are trying to get to Mars. So I would say, there's a lot of really good reasons to do this.
Yeah.
So.
Any last words about Realcomm?
Another great year. I'm exhausted. We'll see when I surface, but it's been good.
Thank you very much for a great year. Jim Young, thank you very much.
Great job.
Thank you guys for making Realcomm an amazing year.